Okay, it's the end of September. The first of these were planted, well, not these, but those ones over there, were planted in about January, so it's been almost 9 months for the oldest of these. And this video is going to be relatively short because there's been a fair amount of attrition over that time. I think it's probably the real story to take away here, is because a few of these have held up, most of them have not. And there seems to be an element of chance to it. But I'm going to start by focusing on these 2.0 Terraria. You can see both of these smaller ones are mostly dead. There's scum in them, same as you can see in a lot of the 1.0 Terraria, as I've mentioned. And these plants are probably not alive anymore. Maybe these simpler moss Terraria are doing fine. The big carboy terrarium is still doing pretty well. Of course, it's got a crack in it that might be contributing. You can see there's a lot of, I'm not exactly sure what these dark lines are, but I think they are dead worms, probably nematodes, that kind of crawl up here and then die and then serve as something can eat. There could also be castings from some insect. I don't entirely know. If you look on the inside of the glass, you can see a couple of dead ants. So there's one there, one here next to the bird shit, and the ants get in through the bottom crack. This lily turf grass is still doing pretty well. These various ivies are thriving. A lot of the plants have kind of crammed themselves up to the lid at the very highest point. The size of the thing really seems to have helped, but the crack in the bottom, I'm sure, has also helped. Over here, where I draw this conclusion about attrition from, this is one of the 1.0 terrariums. It's doing really well right now. It's kind of gone in pulses. If you look back through the videos, you can see it do well and then die and then do well and then die again, and it's coming back again. A different plant has sprouted up. And I think there's just kind of luck about what seeds were in it. So it hasn't, the atmosphere in there hasn't gotten poisonous at any point, and it's just kind of hovering in a sweet spot equilibrium that lets it grow these plants. You can see this plant isn't perfectly healthy. It's got like yellow spots on its leaf. It's got probably some vitamin deficiencies, but it's making it work, and it's grown since the last time we filmed it in the last update. By comparison, this 2.0 terrarium, which had a couple of live plants, it's not 2.0, it's 1.1, is pretty much totally dead. And there's just nothing, there's no seeds in there to sprout anything new, even though it's probably a livable environment at this point. The algae's doing fine, so, you know, photosynthetic organism can make it work in here, but there just isn't a new one in there to start with. And there's a little bit less dirt. There was some coffee grounds in there. There's a couple reasons why that thing might have died, but at the end of the day, it's probably a livable environment in there if there was something to start out, but there just isn't anything to start anew, whereas here we've seen it come back a couple of times because it happened to have the right seeds. And that's another reason why size can help. You know, in a terrarium the size of the carboy one over there, there's a lot more space, that there could be something to start over, and then once a plant gets growing, you can put out new seeds and kind of start that cycle again. And then you look at a lot of these and they're dead, or, you know, almost dead. I mean, this is obviously growing some kind of lichen or something around it, but there's not a lot going on because there isn't a lot to start anything, and they're sealed off. And then, of course, the other problem with these small ones is that if you get something that does really well and then dies, it kind of chokes everything off. And who knows how long this will take to decompose. I mean, it's mummified in this jar, so it could be weeks or days. Well, it's not days. It could be thousands of years. Something's going on. The lid is pressurized from the gases being released in there, but whether it will actually clear this out, I don't know. And even if it does, chances are nothing's going to come back and grow in there, because any seed will sprout and die before this is gone. There will never be really room to start something else. And the same in here, although this one has got a lot of what looks like mold growing on it, which is not surprising, but if it were larger, there might be room for something else to start growing, and if it weren't sealed, something from, the outside could start growing in there, but as it is, that's not going to happen, and it's the same really with all of these. And then checking out these indoor ones, these are doing a little better just because they, I think, have, well, as I've mentioned, it's kind of hard to tell whether anything's alive, but it does seem like the tips of these lichens might be alive. And so indoors is an environment that favors them, so they're doing all right for that reason. You've got a plant that has really, well, not a plant technically, but you've got something that has really modest needs in terms of light and air. So it's able to make it in these jars, whereas proper plants do not. Yeah, that's basically it for today. I mean, the ones in the front yard are all completely dead, so I'm not going to bother to show them. There is this extra terrarium I made that I didn't really make any detail about with the I call these ball moss, but they're actually a plant. And I pulled these off of some gravestones at the local cemetery. And they don't look great, but they might be making do on the moisture that condenses. But there's nothing to be said about that one except to just wait and see how it does. So that's for an update. I mean, that's what's going on, and there's not really much else to say until next time. I've got some plans to make another terrarium with this extra big uncracked carboy I bought, but I've been procrastinating on that for months, so until that happens, there's nothing new.